Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to another edition of Infection Podcast. My name is Nick Craig. You can follow me on X at Nicholas M. Craig. Check out our website. It is infectionpodcast.com. Look at this interesting kind of fancy background here today. Brian with an eye Aldridge. Look at this rainbow background, Brian. Great. Congratulations.
Well, I know. It's got to be that.
Inclusive.
I think 8 months out of the year, isn't that the celebrating the rainbow thing? So
I guess
we got to be in one of those months, I think. If you want to find me, of course, you can find me at Boise Computer on X or at Brian Aldridge on Gab, Getter, Truth Social, and all the rest. So, Nick, one thing I've noticed is it seems like we haven't had any really big stories here in the last couple of, we've had one pop up here and there, but
Sure.
It seems like for the while at the end of last year, it was just like story. And I'm wondering if it's because there's so many people being laid off and there's so many companies like minimizing that like stuff isn't happening. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, we have stuff to talk about, but it's just usually there's like a big story for the week, and I didn't really notice like a big story pop up this week, and or even last week as much. And I feel like maybe it's the layoffs that are causing this.
It's funny you say. It's funny you say that because it's completely unrelated. But I've even noticed, like on the radio show the last couple of weeks. Like, of course, every day there's a big story in politics. Like, there's always big stories. But there's not been, like, anything, like, massive over the last couple of like, I was just going through my notes over the last couple of days, and it's just been, like, yeah, this is all, like, good stuff, but it's not, like, the huge, like, the bombshell story. Like, you're not going to believe this kind of. So it's still interesting.
We've had,
for
like,
example, did you know
Republican ones?
Did you know that due to California's minimum wage, which is now $20 for fast food workers, a Burger King Texas burger combo meal is like $18 now? $18 for a Burger King burger, fries, and a drink. $18,
and
Brian?
I'm trying to remember there's another franchise that they just shut shop and they left California. I mean, it's a national chain that's all over the place, and they're like, we're not even going to bother trying to play with this. Like, we're just closing. California's certainly hurting themselves. Now that's a big story, right? But that's
but is it though? Like,
local.
It's not though. Like,
well, I mean, for California, California's going to be affected by people losing their jobs.
Yeah,
I saw an interview with people with that saying, "I wish that I had my old pay rather than losing my job."
But my point is in saying that it's not a big story is it's just like, it's more of the same. Like, It's not like, oh, wow, craziness in California. Color me purple. Like, I'm so shocked. Speaking of being shocked, Brian, I'm glad you put this in the notes because I read this and I forgot to put it in our Discord channel. Yeah. Did you see this thing with Roku? I love Roku. Now, you and I have been on the opposite sides of this, or were for a very long period of time. You were a big Amazon Fire guy. You were all in on the Fire stuff. I've had Amazon Fires, Fire TV sticks and things, and it's fine. It's just I'm not a fan of the UI. I think it's a little clunky. Just I've always been a big
my wife
Roku
cured me
guy.
Because of all the tracking and political stuff, and finally
it wasn't even that. It's just I didn't think it was as smooth of an experience. I think they to sell the cheapest devices possible, they cut down on the performance of the devices, and you'd buy a $40 Amazon stick or a $30 Amazon stick, and it just sucked. Like, it was just slow, laggy because of all the ads and all the other garbage that were running on it. Well, so I saw this story throughout this week. Roku's new HDMI technology could now show ads when you pause things. So I guess, if you're somebody that obviously you're not, many cases you're not watching, over the air content or things of that nature. So you're not seeing, traditional advertising or things like that. Roku now wants to inject some of this stuff in here. They say that what they're going to do is that they filed a patent for a technology that would let them inject ads into third-party content like a Netflix movie via an HDMI connection. The patent describes a situation when you are playing a video game and hit a pause button to go check your phone or grab some food. At this point, Roku would identify that you have paused the content and displayed a relevant ad until you unpause the game. This is pretty interesting. Well, first of all, the technology is not crazy. I mean, eARC and some of the other HDMI technology, it can do. There's a lot of signaling in HDMI.
CEC, which
sure.
sends a signal over the HDMI cable, kind of like because they'll have ARC and the pass through and all this, and this just whenever you hit pause. I don't get what is the reason that you would want them to do this? That's what I don't understand. Is here you're plugging it and having your Xbox, for example, go into the output or input video of your Roku, and then you have that going into the TV.
Not necessarily.
Why would you do that?
If you have a Roku TV, your Xbox is plugged directly in. There's a lot of those TVs with it built right in, right? Because Roku doesn't have a pass through. So this would be for people
that's what I'm
saying.
They're either going to have to update and put out a new version of the Roku, which has the pass through ability. Right?
No, I'm saying,
or does the TV just switch? They showed as an overlay.
Listen to what I'm saying. If you go to Walmart right now, you can buy a television with the Roku smart TV built in, and so it would be for TVs like that where the whole
not ones
UI,
like we have, where we have the second.
It's a standalone box. Yeah. Now, if you're watching something on Netflix and you pause it, but so you bring up this point, and this is what I was thinking. If you're pausing a television show or a video game or something else, you're getting up and walking away in many cases. Yeah. Why would an advertiser want to buy ad space and time when you probably have a tuned out audience? Now, I will say there is one thing that I can think of that would be huge on this, and it's services like Grubhub, Domino's, food. To me, that's like the real winner in this, is like you're watching something on Netflix with maybe doing a little Netflix and chill, Brian. You never know what's going on. And you pause a show, and the next thing you know, there's a Domino's ad that's popping up, and you're like, oh, man, wouldn't that be great? Yeah, exactly. I'm so hungry. This chilling is really tiring me out. Let's order some Domino's. Food advertising, I think, would be perfect. Anything else, useless. But Taco Bell open till 3 a.m. What do you for who?
What's the incentive? What's the incentive for me to allow them to do this?
You don't have an incentive. You bought their TV. You don't get. There is no incentive. I know. What the hell? What are you talking about?
Because if it's a feature you can turn, maybe I guess maybe you can't turn it off. But I'm just trying to figure out.
Probably not.
Why would I want them to do this at all?
You don't. You don't get a choice. That's why. That's why you don't pay a subscription service. It's free, Brian. Nothing is free.
Yeah. Maybe this is a way that they're helping to keep Roku going, because Roku does provide a lot of services.
And what do they charge you for?
Nothing. I'm assuming it's their advertising of some sort mixed in with their live TV offerings, and they've got apps that people can purchase, and pay for inside.
No, but nobody
there's there's no real big money making source other than the hardware.
Yes,
for Roku,
which is
in a growing TV. They're starting to, I think, to get people to watch their live TV service and things like that. But
they are.
I don't know if it's funding the whole thing.
Well, and that's the thing is hardware is a loss leader. I mean, we've talked about this in the video game industry for years. I mean, Microsoft loses money on Xbox, like the physical hardware. Yeah. There's no money to be made. And when you go to Amazon and purchase a $40 piece of hardware, I don't assume they're not losing money on the hardware, but for them to produce, package, ship, and sell a physical hardware device for $40, it's not a lot of profit. Now,
here's a quote from this article about that. It says Roku lost over $40 million in 2023 on hardware sales.
Yeah,
they made $1.6 billion on ads and services last year.
Now, here's the thing: when a company loses money on hardware sales, it's not that's for stockholder and IRS information. But it makes sense. They've got tens of millions of active users, $1.6 billion on ads. Nissan Communications, our friend Amnon is in the chat, is saying on the home screen, ads pop up on the right side of the video here. Yeah, and they do. I mean, the it's called night Nightscape or Night City, the rolling city background that's the default theme for the Roku. They have started putting those sidebar ads in, which don't bother me. They're relative, the one thing that pisses me off about the Amazon Fire Stick is that a third of the screen is ads. Like that whole top banner is ads, and then there's a very little area for your apps. The Roku at least does it a lot more discreetly is what I should say. It's much less in your face. I saw a bunch of people like freaking out about this. Obviously, I don't like advertising as much as the next guy. I just don't know. I don't know how effective this is going to be. I think I'm going to have a hard time selling it. I just don't think, because I don't think companies are going to want to pay for their ads to be shown when there's likely people. Now, this has always been an issue on traditional television and radio. I mean, when a TV show or a football game goes to a break, what do people do? Get up and get something else to eat, run and use the bathroom, crack open another beer. That's not what I do. But I heard that's what people do when they're watching sporting events. So it's always this period of time where you might not have a captivated audience. But if they're filing for a patent, which, maybe they don't even end up doing anything with, but, it is funny though, because as I brought up about food, where's this over? Kotaku, they put this like montage together, and it's Coke, Coke, Pizza Hut, and Taco Bell, crunchy taco shells. I mean, that to me is the real winner here is food, and maybe content like Disney Plus. I see that, Netflix, whoever, this streaming show is now out, things like that. I don't think traditional advertising would work in a format like this. I don't think Ford is on here. I don't think a commercial for an F-150 works in this format. I think it needs to be non-discrete, kind of like subliminal advertising, like billboards almost, like that kind of advertising.
And that's what I was kind of wondering, like if they could come up with a way to make this feel like, let's say there was a Roku Plus as far as their live TV, that somehow you got something a little bit better, or a channel that you wouldn't normally get off the service, and you can either get it by paying for a Plus subscription or allowing these ads to be shown over content here and there. I think that would give people a reason of, okay, they're doing this, as a way of getting the free Plus subscription without doing a payment. But right now, that's what I just understand is there's no incentive other than I bought that would be more of a reason for me not to buy a Roku TV and get a separate little box to run my Roku if I didn't have to watch ads randomly when I pause my show.
But here's the thing. The standalone box is going to do it too, but the standalone box won't be able to do it on things other than the Roku's input. So if you have your Xbox on HDMI 2, then that's not going to be a problem. But if you're watching
I don't want, if I pause my screen, because maybe on the pause screen, there's like a thing I want to see. Because some games, when you pause, there's a map or there's something.
Yeah.
What if I don't want ads overlaying whatever I'm seeing on the screen every time I hit pause?
To me,
how do you turn it off?
Yeah, I assume for other inputs, it's going to be different.
And they didn't really show what it looks like. That's like their little mock-up of
there's nothing
covering the whole screen.
It's a patent at this point. I mean, it's a patent that they filed on April 4th. So, I mean, they might not even do this. I mean, it
could be a little slide out, really, an eighth of the screen or less. I mean, it could be them really small.
Maybe trying to do a little CYA for the future, where they're like, oh, we might do this in the future. Who knows? Let's get the patent on it, and so nobody else takes it, and then we have to license it. But I think about it. Plex and Netflix and some of the other apps that people use when you're pausing a TV show or movie, some sort of an injected ads, which immediately you have this kind of reaction to, but then you think about it and you're like, well, is this any different than watching cable television? When a show is paused, when it's not paused, it's going to a commercial break. You watch 3 to 5 minutes worth, 2 to 4 minutes worth of advertising. And I guess the question is this any different? The answer is no. It just feels more intrusive because it's not part of the deal. But Brian, talked about it last week. There's no such thing as free.
No. And the fact that they make, I mean, it's surprising that they make $1.6 billion in ads and services.
I don't think that's surprising.
I mean, that's a pretty big number, though. For
it is, but I mean, they've
using
got
Roku. I don't feel like I see a ton of ads.
They have
I don't watch
80
their live
million.
TV.
They have 80 million active accounts worldwide. I mean,
and what's that service that tracks the usage of TV? There's
Nielsen.
Nielsen. I think they purchased, or they are now Nielsen, if I remember correctly. Roku became Nielsen. Like Nielsen is no longer its own company. Nielsen.
I wasn't aware of that.
Roku. Yeah, I saw Nielsen ratings. I saw somewhere that they were taking it over.
That would be that's surprising if that's the case.
So yeah, Roku will now work with Nielsen to track
to do ratings,
media.
Yeah,
media viewership. They're going to be using Roku to track what people are watching,
which makes sense because it's harder. It's at this point damn near impossible for Nielsen ratings to work when so few people.
They used to send you a little box, or I did it once. They want you to fill out a little sheet that says, "I watched this for this." Yeah, and it's like people aren't really. I don't think they're accurately filling that out. Having it to where it's in a device to where the application is tracking what you watch.
Yeah,
makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And that's a big thing in my industry. Radio, the Nielsen ratings and things of that nature. So no reason to panic, no reason to freak out. It's not all crumbling down. It's a patent. There's not even a tech demo of this. But it's something to keep in mind of. And again, these companies, they grow to a size. Things go really well. I think Roku is a great example of of a company that really did explode. But at a certain point, like we talk about with everything else, Brian, the video game end, we talk about this a lot with Unity, with Epic and Unreal. You have to find a sustainable business model, and you can't forever go after investors and have them bankroll your company. You have to generate revenue long term. And we see with tech company after tech company, hundreds of millions of active users. Twitter's the greatest example of this, and they couldn't make a freaking penny. I mean, they just could not generate revenue.
It seemed like they had a shredder and they were just dumping money into it, though, prior to Elon Musk.
Well, but at the same time, they just couldn't sell advertising. I mean, they just couldn't do it, and that only works until the angel investing and the seed money runs out. There's only so many times you can go back to the market and say, "Hey, yes, we're this company. Give us hundreds of millions of dollars," and people start going, "Well, you're not. You have to generate revenue. It's the only way a business works." So the whole situation's a little bizarre. But that's what's going on with Roku.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that, because you were saying they got to figure out how to make money. That's one thing X did with their subscription. They had it to where then you could pay for the service and they give you some sort of a perk. One thing that Elon's been pushing is that new AI Grok.
Okay.
And he's including that with their subscription service. So if you have a premium or I don't remember what
it's not the base one that's like $89 a year. It doesn't come with that one. I know.
Yeah, it's the next one up. And if
like
you do that,
a month,
you get the AI chatbot Grok. And one thing he did is he open sourced it. And I think that this is something that he's pushed because OpenAI, which with the name was supposed to be open. It was supposed to be an open source AI project that then went closed source but kept the name open. And so he created Grok and then open source all of their code so that people could see how it's coming to the answers it does. And I think that this right here is, it's a perk, but he's trying to figure out what are people going to find valuable. And I think at some point, having an AI that doesn't include as many biases, that sometimes says things that you don't agree with because of data, I think that's what this is going to really push, because with AI, the thing we saw with Gemini was the last really big one.
Yeah.
The amount of bias that they were shoving into that, it made it unusable. And I think that, that's Google's, but you even look at Microsoft's, and whichever one, you can ask it certain questions and you can see the bias. I mean, just
Sure.
instantly. And I think that, for instance, Elon, this is something that he's going to push as being the most based, I guess, would that be the proper word? AI.
I guess. I don't like those terms, but sure.
But whatever one that will just look at as much data as possible and give you an answer that isn't scrubbed, an answer that isn't sanitized. Because sometimes
Sanitized,
an AI,
I think sanitized is a good word to use. Yeah.
yeah, because I think they go and try to make these to where they're only going to say things that are going to make everybody feel happy and warm and fuzzy.
Sure.
Well, that's not how reality is. And if you have an AI that's analyzing data to give you a straightforward answer, you can't sanitize it like that. If you wanted to compare, because I've found with AI, the biggest hassles are I'll ask it a question, and because of how they programmed it, it tries to give me a really polished answer rather than give me facts and just numbers and details. And they actually gloss over and wash everything away that I needed.
I mentioned this before the show started. I had a disappointing experience with both Copilot and Open Chat GPT yesterday. If I had been more refined with my question, I would have gotten the answer I probably wanted. But I was being, and kind of intentionally, was being kind of lazy with what I was asking because, if I have to type out a long prompt to get an answer, I can just go and do the damn research myself. Like it kind of defeats the purpose for me. Neither of them was really giving me what I wanted. I was looking for voter statistics in North Carolina for a couple of years, broken down by certain some sub elements that I was looking for a speech I was giving last night. And I was like, I've had really good. I don't use it all that often. The most of the time I use AI for is to like make things sound better. Like I'll write out a paragraph and I'll say expand this, and it adds some things to it, and it makes it a little bit easier to publish. But I was like, man, this should not have been a hard task, and it just was not giving me what I wanted. Like the Copilot response. Can you go back and look at? Let's see. Does Copilot show you your previous responses?
Yeah, I think there's a history on there.
I wonder if I can pull this up, because it was. It just kept saying like previous year same number or something like that, and I was like, no. Like that, it's not. The voter turnout in 2016 was not the same as 2022. I'm like, this is verifiably false. Let's see. Well, now it ran the prompt again, and it looks fine. So I don't know.
Sometimes it seems like they get like in a logic trap.
Yeah, I don't really know. It just kept, it was pissing me off, so I left. But it seems to be doing it now. I don't know.
Well, one of the things that I've found interesting about the whole up-ramping of AI, and especially in the video game industry and the artist industry,
I found it.
There's been so much pushback. Yeah, go ahead.
I found it. So I was trying to have it break down North Carolina primary results 2024, 2020, 2016, and 2012. Those are major year elections. And so it did it. Let's see if I can show this, if I can get this to zoom in and show it in a good way. So it did it fine for 2024, as you can see here. But then in 2020, it says this, same as above. In 2016, party breakdown, same as above. 2012, party breakdown, same as above. Obviously, that's not true. You don't have the same amount of people from political parties voting every year. And I was like, I don't. It was frustrating that it broke down 2024's perfectly. I mean, these numbers were great, and then it just kept saying same as above, and I was pissed by that. So that's Nick's AI tale for the week.
Well, and that's something. As I was saying, there seems to be a big pushback from a lot of the artists because they're worried about their jobs, and it's hard to compete. I saw an article here from PC Gamer where there's a card game developer that has paid an AI artist $90,000 to generate card art. And here's what they said. They said, because no one comes close to the quality that he delivers. And they have a picture showing, a lot of the card art. And that's a legitimate, if that's a legitimate thing to do as a job. But if you look at the people that would be the competition, the actual live workers that would be competition to him, that would take, a year probably to at least put this out if they were working nonstop.
Yeah, it depends. Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know how many cards there are. I'd have to look. But whatever his $90,000 were, he received $15,000 per month.
That's pretty good. It's a lot. I'm not making 15 grand a month. What about you?
No. And so they paid. They probably could have paid him a lot less. But I mean, that's the thing, is the quality that puts out, I view as legitimate. Now, whether or not there's going to be a plagiarism issue later, because it does use I think that's still being figured out in the courts. They can't copyright these things. That creates problems. But for a small team of developers that don't want to pay a ton of money to get a product out the door.
Can I read from this?
Yeah.
We pay our AI artist $15,000 USD per month for exactly 10 hours of work, which is, I mean, this guy's got it made. I mean, that's a hell of a job. Why? In that time, he still makes hundreds of amazing bits of artwork astronomically faster than any team of traditional artists. His art is 100% AI generated, yet it has no extra fingers, no genetic designs, and no mistakes. And it has consistent evolutions, skins, our alt styles, literally no one on his level. We don't care how he makes it. We only care that the end user enjoys our game. So anyway, since creating beautiful AI art is brainless and easy, we have an offer. If anybody can match his quality with any or all of these 6 art tests, if desired, we will consider you for a position as his assistant, paying $5,000 to $10,000 per month. They note, this is a serious offer. We will also send the 2 best / popular quality matching submissions $1,000 USD via PayPal. So what they're saying here is this guy is able to do this amazing work in 10 hours, and we love the product. Our audience loves the product,
right?
And they're going to pay for it. And it's funny because if you go through the comments, it's a bunch of idiots like, oh, I'm never going to play. Only 10 hours worth of works. I'll make sure to skip your game if I see it on Steam. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this is the thing. I view that as legitimate, but there's so many people pushing back and saying you shouldn't. Game studios shouldn't be allowed to use AI. Game studios shouldn't be allowed to do this, do that. If it creates the product that in the end is legal, then what is the issue? He's able to create a ton, and do we complain that Unreal Engine no longer takes as much time to make landscapes, doesn't take as much time to rig characters, doesn't take as much time to animate, models? Do we complain about that? The tools have made it easier? No. But when it comes to AI, all of a sudden people get really crazy and they're like, that's not real art. Well, he's using tools to create pretty cool things that they're totally happy with.
Yeah. And they say
he's creating something unique.
This game, Champions TCG, they have new cards every 90 days. So, I mean, this is constant evolution. And by the way, as I'm reading through the comments, he says the 10 hours is a meme. Obviously, he spends hundreds of hours making these. So okay, that was a joke, apparently. But something that is, I mean, you might think, 3 months, that's a lot of time. Not for traditional artists or a traditional artist, not a team, an artist. Getting a new deck of cards every 3 months, that person would probably kill themselves because of the stress and the pressure that they would be under. You'd be working you'd be working literally nonstop forever because it's It's every 90 days. It doesn't stop. And it's so surprising to me that in the gaming field, like you just brought up the example of land generation and things like that, and nobody bitches and complains about that. It's so surprising that in this industry, there's so much pushback from people that I would assume know better. But that's, I guess, my own stupidity.
And
you
one
just
thing
assume
I showed,
that they'd know better.
Yeah, well, they don't. If you look, I put a link to all the cards, so you can see the type of things that he's putting out. But that's like their viewer, and they have each of the ones you can go look at each of their characters.
Let's see.
Because one thing with AI, it's hard to maintain a theme unless you know what you're doing. And so that's one thing he's doing, is keeping the art style similar.
Pebra, Stona, Raka. I mean, they're all very similar. It's like it's obviously an evolution. It's like Pokemon. It's obviously an evolution.
Yeah. And so he's doing that, maintaining whatever standards. And for a person to come up with this many cards, I can't imagine what they would charge as an individual doing this by hand.
Well, you wouldn't pay them 50. Well, you here's the thing. One person, you wouldn't pay one person $15,000 a month to do it, because no artist could bang this out. It's too much.
Yep.
It's not practical. You'd have to have
But this is the point
artists.
of AI. This is what it was made to do. And there's so much pushback by people hating on it. And
but that's my point. I'm saying they should know better. This is an industry that should know better, Brian. That like, if your grandmother doesn't understand, I'm like, okay, all right, I understand. Okay, like I get it. These guys should understand it.
Now, maybe do you think it's maybe the community managers and our purple-haired people at all of these companies, the ones that are the loudest, as far as they complain the most? Because we see those, the ones that are starting the unions. It's a smaller group of people, but they make a lot of noise. Do you think people are really against AI, or is it just we see people saying it and it's making it to PC Gamer and Kotaku and all these places just because the people that are saying it, and really people don't care?
Well,
Kotaku makes it look like it's a horrible thing, and everybody in the industry hates AI art. But really do that.
Well, I don't know, man. The replies to that tweet are pretty brutal. I'd recommend you go look at them. It's every single tweet, at least the ones that they responded to. And the big concern is, and it's a valid concern, AI is stealing from artists. And is that a real concern and real threat? Yes. Will that be played out over time? Yes. In this case, I'm not seeing where this is traditional art that is being replicated or being I would guess that this guy is using one of the very popular art generation tools, probably Midjourney is I would guess is what he's using as his art generator. One of the individuals that's on Computers 2K Now, she's an artist, and she uses AI to generate art and then brings it into Photoshop and then cleans it up and does various things to fit whatever need. And I assume that that's whatever this person is doing. But I will appreciate Champions TCG for calling these people out and saying, if you can do it, we'll give you $5,000 to $10,000 a month. Yeah. I mean, like, let's go. Like, put your money where your damn mouth is. If this is so easy, if you can simply just go to Midjourney, sign up and pay $35 a month and generate this, then let's do it. Like, it's an easy way to make $10,000 a month. It's a $35 subscription to make $10,000 a month. Obviously, it's not that easy. Because if it was, they wouldn't be paying $15,000 a month for this guy to generate cards. They just wouldn't be doing it.
And this is something from the very beginning I looked at and said, because I'm a programmer, and programmers, just like artists, there's a threat of AI taking some of the jobs. And so what I said is, well, I'm going to try to use AI where I can in the industry and use it to help me be a better programmer, do my job better. And so I approached it that way rather than just saying, oh, I can't believe it's going to come take my jobs. I hate AI. I think that there needs to be that same mindset with with art, because video game studios are going to need it. I mean, look at what's happening with the studios right now. They're dying when it comes to funds and selling copies of their games. And if you have a small team and you want to make something that's going to, people have super high expectations anymore. Indie games are not the little beep bop boop games that you used
Doesn't
to
work.
play. They want it to be same quality level as a AAA studio, and that's what they expect. And well, how is that going to happen? Using AI is the only way. And different companies are implementing it into their tools. Unity is implementing AI into their tools. I'm sure Epic is going to be implementing more and more AI into their tools. Well, that's the new normal, and I think that we need to prepare for it and expect it. It's just amazing how much pushback there is.
Yeah.
One thing,
It's all
OpenAI had
before you move to that, it's just it's like the same usual suspects. It's like oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. You're destroying art, you're destroying this, you're destroying people's lives. It's exhausting. It's the same outraged group of people that you expect to hear from every single time. Before you move on, Nissan Communication says in chat, same as pushing back on tools that a construction worker building a home is using. They should only use hand saws, small hammers, and a small screwdriver. I mean, it's really not.
Yeah.
I mean, I've used the example a gazillion times, and I didn't live through it, but I know enough about the industry when the computer, Brian, and mainframe systems made their way to big business across America with IBM International Business Machines putting in a terminal at every business across the country. I mean, it was the same thing then. And look at it now.
Yeah, because computers have taken a lot of jobs. Well, you're right, especially of people that were then called computers, who did math by hand and everything else. Computers replaced them. Are we complaining that we don't do as much math by hand anymore?
No, I'm sure as hell not. I'm terrible at math.
and that's the thing is now, we just have some weird expectation that this is different. OpenAI, they call it Sora, but it's their text to video tool.
That's pretty cool.
They're saying that the impact will be profound. Now, are we going to have the same pushback? Because creating video is a very time consuming, creating animated or digital video that uses 3D models, and that's very time consuming to create. Creating video where you have to take a camera out and get a bunch of reel just to slice something together, that's incredibly time consuming and costly. This is going to be something to where without any of that, you just say, I want this, and it's going to create a video, or you give it a picture and it'll make it into a film or something like that. This is going to have the exact same. Are we going to see the same pushback from this? I just feel like people are they pick and choose what they get upset over, and for some reason they don't seem to get as upset about video. They don't like pictures, but video, just probably because it's harder to do. I don't know what it is, or it's less by hand because they're going out and just recording things. But yeah, this is Sora. This is going to be something that you just type in a prompt and say, make a video for this. And I think we're going to start seeing a lot of this stuff for, it could be cartoons, it could be regular television that looks realistic. We've seen it in the past for people who have died. They'll dub someone else, their body in, their likeness, and it looks pretty close. We saw it in Star Wars with Princess Leia after she died. This I think is going to become the new normal, and I think it's going to get good enough where it's going to be hard to tell. Or maybe for some reason they have to fix something post. Something didn't record right. There was something. Have AI scan and look for those things that are errors, things that were said and seen that weren't supposed to on an old, something that's supposed to be done 100 years ago. Because those are the types of things that we see, the complaints. AI can scan all that stuff and find things that we would consider an error, or maybe something didn't come out right. Have AI fix it. Well, if you can't copyright that, does that mean that bit of the film isn't copywritten? That's kind of an odd. Can people post that part of the video whenever they want on the internet without any copyright infringement? Because you can't copyright AI. That's going to be the weird thing for video.
Yeah,
almost all videos copywritten.
Yeah, and a lot of it is. And you know, this stuff will work its way out in the court system. We're not there yet, and I honestly don't know where it goes. But I mean, at this point, it's like you're right, Brian. You either got to embrace it or you're going to be left behind. I mean, the same people that didn't embrace technology and didn't embrace computers in the 80s and 90s when they were, I mean, yeah, of course in the 70s too, but really in the 80s and the 90s when they were becoming so much more prominent and relevant, many of those people were left behind because the industry changed.
Yeah. Can you
all industries changed is what I should say.
There's a video I put on under Sora there. I don't know if you can show some clips of that because they show some examples. For instance, if you go to about 2 minutes and 42 seconds,
okay,
they got one that looks like a video game.
Okay.
This is going to be a crazy thing when it comes to people trying to kickstart things. Because what was the day before?
Yes,
that was
disaster.
One where they showed video kind of like this, right? And they say, "Come fund our game." Well, then it didn't end up looking anything like this. But that's where people are going to have to be very discerning and have them show proof, because this right here could be a concept for a video game. People say, "Hey, look, we made a video game."
But I'll say this in regards to the video game stuff. Obviously, it's easy to do that in an AI. Easier. It might be easy in quotes to do that in an AI model. You can already do that crap in Unreal right now. All you do is buy a couple of model and asset packs, and you can be like, "Oh my God,
you still have
look
to
at
do
this."
a little bit of work.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of work, but I mean, it's not like you can purchase. And I mean, that's what we saw. What was that game that like wanted to be GTA? That they did the same thing where it was just like purchase a couple of game ready made packs, put some cool effects on some in-game render, do some rendered scenes in Unreal, and boom, you've got a game trailer. So I'm less worried about it for video games because I think that stuff's. You could spend, if you knew Unreal, you could probably spend a week or two and make a convincing enough trailer for a Kickstarter.
To trick somebody, yeah.
To trick somebody,
and that's what they've done in the past. But now, a person who has no knowledge, who just can make a good prompt, can come up with something like this. And
sure,
that's something
I will say this
though, have to deal with.
Well, here's the thing. I think the industry's already dealt with this. I mean, look at how hesitant now people are to back kickstart projects and some of these things. Yeah, because there has been so much, and fraud is not even the right word to use, because many times, yes, there have been a couple cases of legitimate fraud where people are like, they're not actually making this at all. But there's been so many, how do I put this? There's been so many projects that have fallen short, Brian. That's the nice term I'll use. Yeah. That have fallen short of expectations, No Man's Sky, that people are just generally skeptical. So I don't like the video game industry's already dealt with this. And I think people are already very weary and they will want more before they go and decide to dump a whole bunch of money into a project. We have dealt with that ourselves already because we've been screwed so many times.
Yeah.
It's happened. I mean, it's happened a whole bunch.
I still have ones I'm waiting for them to release, and this was 7 years ago.
Yeah, sure.
I've been waiting.
Yeah, and you're never going to get them. Yeah.
And there was a report put out by Axios, and they said that 60% of OpenAI's models' responses contain plagiarism. And I think that this is something that's still it contains words from other content, copywritten material, things that were written by other people that it has just repeated, claiming it to be unique work. And that's the problem, is AI, a lot of times you don't know what's unique as far as it's coming up with an answer based on data, or it's just repeating to you a quote that, and that's where I think they need to be better about it in this, is make it to where if you're putting something out, is this all unique language with, based on data, or are you taking quotes and data, or rows and rows of information from other articles and just putting it in with this? Because that's plagiarism. That's my concern, is They need to figure out how to make it so there is no plagiarism. You can have it because it's not plagiarism if you just take ideas and concepts and numbers, but when you're repeating back the exact wording of what was in the data, that's when it's not usable. And there's 60% of their GTP 3.5 outputs contain some form of plagiarism.
Isn't my response to that is, yeah, of course. It's learning information from reading information. It's going to, even if it's not copying a direct quote, its learning model is going to regurgitate what the chatbot is going to regurgitate what it learned.
But it needs to say it in a way that's not quoting them. That's my issue.
But here's the thing. There is a difference between it actually ripping a quote, or is it not ripping a quote and just generating the same quote, right? See, that's what I'm wondering, and that's what I'm curious about. Is this actual plagiarism in the regards of Brian Aldridge wrote this sentence, I'm just going to copy and paste this sentence into this output of this prompt, or is it writing what it thinks and it is essentially plagiarizing you? I assume it's the latter, but I don't know. I could be wrong.
So it says, per the report for GTP 3.5, 47 or 45.7% of all outputs contained identical text. 27.4 contained minor changes, and 46.5 had paraphrased text. And that's what I want.
What does it mean by paraphrase text? It just mean like actual quoting what it is?
It's the same information, but it was changed how it was worded so that it wouldn't be a direct quote.
But that's what I'm arguing is, how do we know that it's actually a direct quote? Like, I know it might be word to word a quote. The question is, did it actually copy that quote, or did it generate that quote thinking it was unique? That's what I'm wondering. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. I know it's probably confusing what I'm trying to articulate.
Well, but like, is this true? Is what they're saying actually accurate? And I think that's going to be the hard thing to really prove. Is, maybe if you fed it, you'd have to feed in a whole set of data that exactly what it has.
Sure.
Maybe a smaller subset, and then say, give me information back and see how much is actually quoted out of that. You're gonna have to start small, because when it's so big, you're going to have crossover on certain phrases and words.
Sure.
It's going to try to say things that make sense in our today's language, and so it's going to try to repeat things the way we say them, because it doesn't truly know our culture. It's imitating our culture. And so how do you imitate culture in the way that things are said and worded without sometimes saying exactly the same thing? It's very difficult. The whole thing with AI is going to be very difficult for them to do.
Correct.
So they hear, they say.
And by the way, this is one company that is doing this, known as Copy Leaks. That's the name of the company. I'm not saying I don't know anything about the company, but it's one company in their analysis, which could be flawed. I don't know.
Yeah, but this is my concern of, let's say you're making these videos. Are you going to see direct? Because when AI first started happening, I was seeing, hey, here's a picture, and then here's a picture that was generated with AI, and they're almost identical. And that's where the legal problems will come in. Is if you say, give me a picture of a person, a person that's holding a coffee cup and reading the morning paper. If it does that and they look almost identical from that prompt, that's a problem. Because there's nothing in that prompt that should produce an almost identical image to one of your trading photos. It needs to realize, okay, I've trained so I understand the concept of what you want, but I need to create a unique version of that. I think it's probably because they get lazy in training the things, because they realize, well, if we have it do it, if we let it create things that are closer to the original art, things are more accurate, and people think it's really cool because it's coming up with realistic things. If you let it try to be too creative, then things come, then you have 6 fingers on your hand and 3 arms.
Sure.
That's what we run into. So I feel like maybe they've been tuning it back, and it isn't as creative as we really think, and that's why we get so much plagiarism.
I can definitely see that.
Now, one thing I saw, Tyler Perry, who's a music producer, from what I understand.
Yeah.
Music and movies. So a filmmaker. He said that he was creating an $800 million studio expansion, and he put it on hold when he saw OpenAI's Sora. He says this is going to touch every corner of our industry. It may be because he doesn't want to say, hey, maybe things aren't happening as good as we want right now. Everybody's losing their jobs. Perhaps now's not a good time to throw $800 million at a studio. Maybe that's it, and he just doesn't want to say it. But he's claiming to watch AI very closely and thinks that this is going to be something that's going to be a major impact on his studio. If he's that worried about it, invest into
something like
AI
this
to making what you do better, right? You can make a kid's cartoon with no real artists. For the most part, giving it prompts, you could say, make me a cartoon, have a set of characters. You just come up with the dialogue.
I don't think so. I think
you don't think it's going to be that smooth?
Okay, hold on. Two different things you just said. You said you can, and you said you think. Right now, the answer is no. It's not good enough to do that. It can generate these short little stints and things like that.
But nothing with a cohesive look.
I don't think so. I've seen nothing. I've seen nothing to that point. In the very near-term future, I would say within the next 2 to 5 years, yes, I think what you're saying is going to be very much in that direction. Right now, no. Right now, it's not doing that. At least, I'm sure there's somebody doing it, but it's not widespread enough or mainstream enough to do something like that. At least at this point, it can generate that car driving down a mountain, but you saw the prompt, how long the prompt was to get a car driving down the mountain.
Yeah.
Imagine how long. Imagine how you're essentially going to have to write the entire show, and then.
That's what I mean. Feed it your show and then see what it creates as far as a story.
Yeah, I'm sure it's been done.
Your script is your prompt. That's what I'm curious. Would it be able to create something that just was not a nightmare by feeding it a script?
I don't think so.
That's what they need to work towards, though, right? That's the long-term goal of all this.
No, I don't think so, because here's the thing. I'm not saying that AI, obviously I am very much of the mindset that AI will be helpful, but there is still artists and artistic interest that cannot be matched by a computer. There is the human touch. There is the way in which people that are professionals cartoons is a great example to use, but in that industry that follow principles and standards and have their own unique, Rick and Morty is a great example of a show that has a very unique artistic style. AI is not going to be able to do that. It's not going to be able to match that. It can't do it. It is the human element. Can it be helpful in the process of that, generating a 3D model for then an animator to use in the creation? Absolutely. But I don't know that soon we're going to be in a position where you're going to be able to essentially feed it an entire episode of a show like Rick and Morty and then have it dump out a fully animated show. The processing behind that would be insane. 30 frames or 60 frames a second to produce something like that. That's nuts.
But yeah, and I think that's where we will see, especially in the short term, starting to see people create the little pieces that then they're using in their work. They're still putting it together. And I think that's going to get a lot less complaints than these ones that are pretty much 100% AI created. But I don't have an issue with, because there's plenty of cartoons. South Park, for example, started transitioning from using the flat paper to doing it all on computers, and then, now they'll throw in 3D models here and there, and they're not super high quality 3D models. But you know what? If they use AI, they could probably get a lot better detailed 3D models thrown in there pretty easily.
But I bet you they don't want.
And wait.
But I bet you they don't want that. That's what I'm saying. It's the artistic.
Probably.
the artistic portion of that would be gone, and they don't want that.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
in my opinion.
we've got other stories that we'll get to later, but there's the whole, China had one where they had court intervene on copyright law for AI.
They kill they
infringing.
blow up the company or kill the people that own it.
Well, they said that some superhero character was infringed upon in the copyright, using AI. And that's going to be the issue is, when you're having AI create something and it creates a character that already exists, there's a lot of them that try to prevent you from being able to do that with a prompt. Like, create Batman, don't create Batman, because one of my boys likes to make pictures with Batman or with Dune and things like that. I'm surprised that it lets them create an exact, almost a copy of what Batman is, because that's total copyright infringement.
Sure.
Should we have it to where we realize that it can do that and we can turn on a copyright mode and a non-copyright mode? Because it's cool that he can make it, but if you're trying to do something that's serious, that can be used in a business setting of some way, I don't want it doing that. I don't want a near replica of Batman. He wants a near replica of Batman. I don't. They're going to have to come up with a way to separate that so this, like what happened in China, doesn't happen. When you say create me a mech type of character that has these characteristics, and then bam, it puts out an identical one that already exists. You can't. That's gotta be prevented if you're going to use this in business.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And that's what I think the courts, we'll talk about it later, as I said, but, the UK Supreme Court is ruling on this. We have ones in the United States that have been dealing when it comes to books and authors dealing with this. There's a lot of things happening in the courts right now trying to deal with how we have a ton of AI stuff coming out. How do we deal with this legally? How much can they use it in business? Can they sell a product that includes this? That is still up in the air. There's no answer yet that says that this is safe. People are moving forward and still doing it, kind of like the old Wild Wild West days of the internet early on. But what's going to happen legally? Are they going to get the pantsuit off them in a couple of years once these finally are settled? Or are they going to say everything created before this is we're going to ignore, but going forward, here's the rules? Like, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, you don't know. I mean, that's the thing.
It'd be crazy to watch.
It is. It's going to be an interesting. It's going to be an interesting couple of years to watch, especially as the legal system tries to catch up with technology.
Because they're always delayed, anyways. I mean, we have to wait for it to get through court cases, legal disputes for years.
Not only are they delayed, I mean, and the craziest thing is they are delayed. But like, if you go back 16 months ago, I don't even think anybody knew what ChatGPT was. I mean, it wasn't even like a phrase or a term that people knew. Now it's installed on people's iPhones all across.
And now we want
the
judges that are in their 60s plus.
It's just not
attorneys that this isn't in their wheelhouse. Now they're going to have to be defending it.
Well,
yeah.
But here's
how do you get it to where there's an understanding of it to even make a ruling?
Well, before you even get to that, you have to update the laws that deal with copyright and infringement and things like that. So, I mean, this
didn't exist before. What are you going to, a computer creating things based off of just pumping it information? Like, what could go wrong?
Yeah, exactly. All right, Brian. Where can folks find you on the old Wild West interwebs?
All right. Well, if you want to find me on X, you can go at Boise Computer, of course, at Brian Aldridge and Gab, Getter Truth Social. Check out my blog at biteoftech.com. And of course, go to our website, infectionpodcast.com. Just go to the upper right-hand side and join us on Discord. If you do that, we've got 11 ARC servers running on there. We've got a politics section. We also have a show news channel. Maybe there's a topic that you think we should be covering or something that you think would be a good addition to what we've been discussing. Throw a link in there and we review that before the live show. Also, you can get a hold of Nick or I directly on there. If you want to watch the live show, you can do that through Twitch or YouTube, or watch the upload after the fact on Rumble, or just go to the lower right-hand side. You can see a lot of different platforms for our podcast. So whatever device or way you want to listen, there's a lot of ways to choose whichever is most convenient. And if you're doing that, that means we've got the particular episode show notes ready and up on the website. You can go in there for a built-in audio and video player if you want to listen to it or watch it right on the site. And then links for all the different things we discussed throughout the episode. So maybe there's a video, you're listening, and you want to see a video that we showed. This is the perfect place to do that, and we link them all there. If you want to support us, there is a support menu option up top, or you can go to infectionpodcast.com/support.
Yes, sirree. Brian, thank you very much. Appreciate it. We'll chat with you next week. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us. You can check me out on X at Nicholas M. Craig. You can also visit my website, nickcraig.com, and visit the Wilmington's Morning News podcast. That's the day job. You can find all of that again at nickcraig.com. Well, that's going to do it. We appreciate everybody joining us here. We'll do it again next time. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great week. We'll see you.